taking our action to a wider horizon. Second perspective for our discussion is the topic of environmental sovereignty. The Agency for Strategic Initiatives has developed, in cooperation with partners, manifesto of personnel sovereignty last year. It contains everything, whatever is part of the tasks of a person and his responsibilities, the challenges before his or her homeland, and whatever is linked to self-realization of this person and their talents. So the system shall allow every single person to tap his or her talents into the most potential and to address the challenges which every country faces. Eco-entrepreneurship, that's the topic of discussion, but I would like to broaden this definition. I'll be very thankful to colleagues just to utter their opinion and understanding of what young people can be engaged by in terms of activities, actions, programs, whatever is needed to make young people engaged. I believe that we need to be focusing on the fact that there is part of public interviews and surveys providing some information on the reaction from the young generation related to this transition from consumption to creation paradigm. So, young generation just checks on the products whether they have been manufactured sustainably or not sustainably. Creative industry is growing, and there are many people in the status of self-employed personnel. They're showing that there is a huge demand from the young generation for creating their own products and projects related to the environment and ecology. In a broad meaning, starting from some waste materials being recycled through to just healthy foods, etc. So these entrepreneurships and willingness of a young person to drive development of sustainable environment will be the key thread of today's discussion during this session. And of course, just if we take the statistics, we found out that in Russia, we can see 15 to 20% of environmentally active persons and 52% of young people, they are just demonstrating support to environmental initiatives. I believe there will be an exponential growth, and this will be due to the fact that there is a change, and there will be change, from consumption to creation. And second, we are living in conditions of environmental adaptation. During the plenary session, we had some cases of climate migration. Therefore, it's important to stress that all solutions we're going to come up with, they will be designed considering these facts. I believe the future belongs to the young generation. We need to be guided by them. And I'm eager to give the floor to my colleague from the team of Agency for Strategic Initiatives, Alexander Weiner. He's head of the Center for Strategic Initiatives. Alexander, thank you very much for joining us because our agency has its branches and offices across the whole country, across different time zones. Just tell us about the project on which our strategic agency team and your team are working together, so that how you are engaging young entrepreneurs in the regional constituencies in Russia in short-term and long-term basis. So what are additional support measures and programs for young environmentally oriented entrepreneurs? Thank you very much for your questions. Just a brief preview. I would like to tell about the projects we are implementing for eco-entrepreneurs, because the topic of environmental protection and eco-friendliness is a connecting dot, not only for the entrepreneurs, but also for the executive authorities and also governmental bodies across the regions, caring for the environment, sustainable development. This is a really steady trend which we are observing for the last year, during the last years. So we need to recycle materials, we need to reduce contamination, but the business is also challenged by the new regulations in this regard. Entrepreneurs is a special group. The matter of monetization and formal obedience by the environmental regulations, they're looking at things we not really notice. They consider social impact and they consider the environment. These are not just trends for them. This is a real opportunity for them and even necessity to work on things which can do our world better, to contribute their small chunk of work to the benefit of the whole society. The eco-startup sector is being developed rapidly. So, based on the decision by the President, we introduced some help to support such young entrepreneurs. And even specifically, this program is targeting young eco-entrepreneur startups, eco-robot projects. This is quite a good example. Mobile water treatment center for lakes and springs and rivers. And there are many other projects related to waste management, recycling, etc. The project we are running for eco-entrepreneurships, we support young entrepreneurs as part of this hub and supporting program we're running. We provide some articles, some information, we provide consultancy and training courses. We provide tutors, mentors, just to train, educate people. And one of the key practices we've developed together with Alexei Evgenich, we are implementing the Venture Foundation to support young entrepreneurs initiatives, talking about young people's hobbies, young entrepreneurs' hobbies. They would like to actively change the world around them. We came up with some recommendations for the regional authorities to boost the economic development of the region, engaging and supporting young entrepreneurs so that regional authorities can engage young people and speed up their region's development. Last year, we managed 177 practices. This year, there will be 263. We publish them on the website of the agency. They have separate area of expertise within this set of practices is environment or environmental protection. For instance, social engineering prevails in this domain, but these practices, they show not just efficiency and finding the new trends which are setting in the regions. We have such cases as Yamal, COP for cleanliness, and other sustainable leadership programs. There are many projects we are on in this regard. But the main important thing, since we talk about the hobbies of young people, creating joint practices, common practices, at different fora, so that young entrepreneurs can become authors of the governmental and political agenda of their own region. And this format of collaboration between a young person and a regional executive body, in every imaginable format, whatever it can be, says there is some contribution to making young people authors of the policy. So we need to maintain environmental sovereignty and bring young people to boost up the development of this area. We are really eager to support such projects, but the main thing, just answering your question, since we were talking about entrepreneurships as connecting board, but we give the opportunity to young people to take part in development of environmental trends in their regions. We'll be happy to support them in any fashion. We'll be happy to listen to any cooperation proposal from their side. So I believe I address your two answers. Thank you very much, Alexander, for the project presentation. And your statement regarding implementation of the social and economic projects targeted at development of the region in the environmental sector, I can say that we need to refer to the best practice from Altai, from Kamchatka, from Irkutsk region, from Buryatia, from the Caucasus, from Far East, wherever the sites are being managed by the project teams, considering all the regulations targeted at meeting the environmental preservation requirements. And what are the bases for communication with the municipal bodies and other regional authorities? Do you have such cases where you cooperate and communicate with such municipalities and regional authorities in this regard? Yes, in Altai, it's important to make young people contribute to establishing the political agenda and to see that they have impact on suggested initiatives, say in the format of a voting. So we need to make them feel they are engaged. Their voice matters. They can make certain decisions, and therefore will help them to attract those young people who we consider to be not that active. This word of mouth works the best because it's clear we have different marketing formats to promote our ideas, but this is the format where a young person takes part in establishing the political agenda for the region and is made responsible or feels responsible for it. Shows to be the most efficient way in terms of forms we can propose to the young people for us to cooperate with. This is quite a good example for a young person to get engaged and develop really cool initiative which can be elevated to the level of president. Thank you very much for this initiative. Of course, we have a good understanding that it's necessary to make a project to be implemented, to feel really relevant, and there won't be any second chance. So because deceived generation with their hopes, it's not a good way to go. We shouldn't be risking it. Thank you very much for connecting to us. Nonetheless, you are representing our Center for Youth Initiatives in Russia, and you're the spokesperson and frontman for the initiatives coming from the young generation. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. We have some online contributions. We are having this beautiful offline female panel, and our male contributors are joining us online. Rashid, have you connected to our conference call? Yulia, do you hear me? Do you hear me well? Yes, we hear you well. We are glad to see you. Yeah, hello guys. Hello Altai. Greetings everybody. Thank you very much for joining this panel. The topic is really extremely important. I've been actively engaged with this topic. My key points of attention: there is a demand from the young people, entrepreneurs, for the relevant ecology. So we shouldn't be limited in terms of our young people politics by the number of recycled waste. It's not only about recycled waste. We're talking about senior courses of universities. So these are working-aged people, young people. They have a demand for self-realization, to be engaged into the environmental policy. Hence, we are talking more about the policy itself and the politics of the process. And as part of this trend for intellectual environmentalism, young people want to become active in terms of making some innovation, in bringing up some technologies, taking some management decisions from authorities. They would like to be part of decisions made by authorities at various levels. They would like to act as active participants of this environmental protection policy. Since we are talking about the environmental sovereignty, me personally and also Russian Environmental Society, we are promoting this ideology. And we're seeing this demand that it is here. There is a demand for patriotism in the ecological segment. It's not fake, it's a real demand. It is here, specifically in the border regions where we have contacts to some foreign colleagues. This is the so-called green diplomacy, which we are also developing. And this is the sport where I see this development potential. Talking about science, young scientists are being actively engaged, and they are willing to be engaged into this topic, into this joint work. We understand that ecology is not limited to some waste matters. Ecology is a science. It's a very serious topic. And we have people, young people, who have their own certain of environmental awareness, who are ready to pass their knowledge further on. They would like to act as agents of change in terms of changing the governmental policy. I have two cases to bring up here. We, within the framework of the agency, we are working with a platform Eco-Entrepreneurship.rf. There are several tracks in there, and I would like to announce one of them to you and to make a brief preview of this track. Under support of the municipal authorities of the city of Vologda, we formed such track called Be Entrepreneurs Considering Environment. This is all about what the entrepreneurs themselves are guided by. We have drafted some set of tools to environmentalize a business. We'll be adapting it and we'll be running a pilot project in Vologda, and then we'll try to scale this experience across the whole country if it turns out to be successful. There is another case we've completed within the framework of the agency. We had a session where we acted as moderators at the forum ecosystem. We invited some young guys to participate in the session and to choose the model of environmental young people's council. So the model is functioning, it's been adjusted to its final completion, and then we'll be ready to present it on our platforms, resources, on our public websites. And then in conclusion, Yulia, as you already know, that we've recently had a meeting with Svetlana Chuksheva, and we talked through about the joint agenda, about that track, Eco-Entrepreneurship.rf, so that we can develop our values and our goals, because our values we cherish and the goals we cherish actually are similar to the Agency of Strategic Initiatives. Again, demand for the intellectual environmentalism is there. This is underestimated topic, I reckon. I believe in this direction we have huge potential to move forward to. Thank you very much for understanding. Thank you, Rashid. Rashid Ismailov, chairman of the Russian Environmental Society, member of the Experts Council to the Agency for Strategic Initiatives. I would like to add something to the ideas we just heard. The topic of young environmental councils is about looking for young entrepreneurs with active political status who work as volunteers, so that we can look for ways to include them into the decision-making process at the authorities level. And personnel sovereignty, or sovereignty of those who can serve as servicemen within governments, municipal governments. So these topics are related to those who are living in their small regions or generally who cherish Russia as their homeland. And we need to treat this patriotic topic very differently. So we need to understand the understanding of the guys' view and conception of their cultural code, where they live, where they came from, through the prism of the ecosystem and nature in general. As Rashid puts it, the project Eco-Молодежка will be developing and has been already launched. This intellectual environmentalism is quite a trendy one. So it helps address many tasks, many challenges we're discussing. The third point I've taken from this conversation, I hope that the forum thread of the nature, Eco-ALTAI, will be continuing as going forward. I believe we have completed systemic work at Kamchatka. I believe Ekaterina will join us from Kamchatka and will elaborate on this. I believe the next forum will be hosting our next panel discussion on young people entrepreneurship in the environmental sector. I hope to see on the seats on the panel young students, young entrepreneurs presenting their projects and highlighting them, because topics related to the young people need to be discussed together with young people, so that I'm sure it will be quite interesting to students how it's going to turn out to be in the future. Let's stick to our timeline. I'm not sure that we're going to have some buffer in terms of time. I would like to give the floor to Olga Anelkina, Deputy Managing Director of the Baikal Lake Foundation. The topic of your contribution is, it seems to me, so the week of water, the Youth Parliament on water. This sounds quite interesting. You'll be telling us about it in detail, I hope. Your focus might be connected to this Baikal location as a lake and to those tools young people can bring up to the table and tell us what they're dealing with. You can also tell us about what's happening to the young people who are engaged to be included into this activity, and your team together with these young guys is working on providing support to this professional career path of their engagement in this part.
Thank you so much for your introduction. Indeed, today I will be speaking on water agenda and engagement of youth in this agenda and its tools. Start by answering the question of why water and water agenda. Russia is the second country in the world by its water resources. Baikal is the deepest world's lake, containing about 20% of whole potable water. The Republic of Altai has 20 rivers and about 20,000 lakes. Water is the strategic resource of the 21st century. That's what the UN says. It's a strategic resource because it is needed for strategic production and human survival. 2.2 people all over the world so far don't have access to potable, clean water. And in a couple of years, 1/3 of the population are expected to be in a shortage of it. In 2025, oil and gas prices will be getting higher in Sahara and the Arab Peninsula and in the center of Africa. It's already happening. Climate change, on the one hand, is leading to drought in some regions. On the other hand, climate change increases the number and frequency of natural disasters such as tsunami and floods. All of this requires highly qualified experts able to manage water resources. The socio-economic development that I've already mentioned and the growth of the population require more potable water, clean water, but due to anthropogenic impact, it's getting less and less. 17 of the SDGs are in one way or another related to clean water. Like I said, Russia is second in the world by its resource of clean water, so we are natural leaders on the global arena in that. So there is a lot of water, but it's neglected. The value of water and its strategic role is underestimated in Russia. That's the political aspect of the problem. And youth is not interested enough in building a career in the water sector. It's not a secret that the draft of the water strategy of the Russian Federation has yet to be adopted. The previous strategy expired in 2020, and we're now left in a sort of vacuum. At the Russian Water Congress in June 2023, they were saying that in 10 to 15 years, the preparation of experts on water supply and water management declined by 75%. The professions are not popular with the Russian youth, which reduces the number of budgetary subsidized places in universities, cuts in staff of academic personnel. We need to engage youth in water agenda. There are good reasons for that. According to the recent sociology study in Skolkovo, not published yet, sustainable development and ecology interest the most people from 21 to 35 years old, Zoomers. So there is a demand, there is an interest, and we only need to use it. What's happening in Russia? What tools do we have to engage youth in the water agenda? I've already mentioned the All-Russian Water Congress. It's a meeting of high-level people, but without the participation of youth. And we've proposed engaging youth in this platform several times. We're still waiting for a positive response. There are regional fora for high school students, for instance, South Ural's Ecological Water Forum, All-Russian Junior Water Forum in 2021. But the permanent are only shore and bank cleaning initiatives for the youth of Russia, and they are just what they are, cleaning the shores and banks. Our proposal is to create a youth council on water and organization of the annual water week, which will integrate not only the political and business leaders, but also youth. These ideas are not new. They have proved themselves abroad. Since 1991, Stockholm has hosted the Global Water Week annually, which hosts heads of states and integrates youth into the preparation of the event. And in terms of youth water parliaments, the first one was created in 2002 under the aegis of the UN for the year of potable water. 30 national and regional youth parliaments on water have been registered so far, but Russia doesn't have one, and it's part of the European one. A few more details about our plans and events. The Week of Water is supposed to be an annual event with lectures, open dialogues of youth with the authorities and businesses and the global community, with a job fair and competition for the best youth projects, so volunteering events, and the Youth Council on Water. The Youth Council of Water is supposed to engage members of youth from 18 to 35 in terms of research, development of the youth water strategy of Russia, project work, preparation of the Week of Water, and representation of Russian youth at international fora. Our projects have already been recognized because we are in the top 100 of the best projects of 2023. And we have proposed our ideas to St. Petersburg International Economic Forum and have been supported by the Russian Agency for Water Resources and leading universities of Russia and the Institute of Water Problems of the Russian Academy of Sciences. So our plans for this year, we're launching ourselves this year. Next year, we are planning to hold the first large-scale Week of Water for Youth on Lake Baikal. And we want to create a Eco-Altai youth track next year. And the youth version of the water strategy of Russia is to be drafted. We want to scale up our experiences. We'll be happy to cooperate with you if you're interested. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you very much, Olga. A very interesting presentation with very precise messages. Well, we are supposed to prepare a resolution based on the results of this forum. So this is one of the proposals to be incorporated in the at our own forum, Strong Ideas for New Times. We have been selecting projects related to topics of ecology and the green initiatives. So I would like to get some feedback. Am I right thinking that this is an open project? It's not limited to people who live around Baikal, right? Well, the idea is to unite all youth, including students, young experts, from all regions of Russia, to allow them to communicate and work together under the leadership of our researchers. Oh, that's great. And going back to our discussion, this open panel of the challenges facing the country and our environment must engage students and school children because they also have a lot of activities aimed at this. And hopefully everybody could join and bring forward their competences. But who's the head of the youth parliament, by the way? Well, it's the youth. The topic of water is global. Am I right in thinking that in your presentation you told us that the project is ready to collaborate and cooperate with the international community on this agenda? Indeed, our foundation of the Baikal Lake consists of young people. They're all under 35. We are youth, and this year we are already going to the climate conference. We'll be representing Russia there and the foundation. And next year we are planning to participate in the Water Forum in Bali. And we have big competences and a lot of readiness, and we're looking forward to everybody else joining us. Thank you for being so open for a partnership, and I'm sure that it will be supported not only by the traditional partners, but also by other speaker colleagues. So let's move on. Ina Maklaeva is presenting head of the youth volunteer project Clean Altai. So she will talk about the project, its perks and its values, and about how to be the best ecological project of Russia, what the role of youth can be in a project like this. And everything to do with Altai has always been exciting people, even if a person listening has never been to Altai. Yesterday, we were hearing the numbers about the density of tourist flow into Altai, and I think students go to vacation on Altai as well. Hopefully it will continue, so we need to engage them and not just let them be tourists in this wonderful place. Thank you. Over to you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. In ALTAI, before you introduce yourself, you tell everyone where you hail from. And I'm a local. I'm an indigenous person from the family of Tudosh, and the project has existed for 65 years already. And this forum, in our memory, has transformed quite a bit. At the first one, we were very shy speakers, and now I'm amazed to say that the project is already 5 years old. This is a great initiative to improve the surrounding territories. So let me briefly tell you about our achievements, what we're doing, and what we're looking forward to. Like I said, we've been cleaning local rocks and mountains from vandalism, from graffiti, and from trash. I've heard about the Code of Tourism, Code of ALTAI, Environmental Code, Sustainable Development, Balance, Striking the Balance, a lot of different words. And in this context, my project is a very striking initiative for 2 or 3 people, 2 or 3 ideas. For me, as the head of the project, it's just about getting up there and doing things. You know, none of my partners initially knew about tourist codes, Altai codes, whatever. But what moved you to do it? What triggered it? Well, the trigger was the absolute love for our motherland. For Altai people, there is no motherland outside Altai. They understand motherland as this precise place. Everybody is supposed to know every lake, every ridge, you know, by heart. Like avatars, we are in complete harmony with nature and only live according to its laws. And nobody will ever share this feeling, even if they study it under a microscope. This condition, I think, is in our DNA, it's genetic, and I will never be able to express it in words. There is a huge power, moving power behind me, a desire to protect my Altai. 2.5 million tourists per year, of course, are a lot of anthropogenic load to the region, to our roads, to our ridges, and nobody had ever before cleaned up the graffiti on the roadside rocks. And it had been accumulating, the ugliness had been accumulating. To the Altai people, these places are holy, they are sacred. You address the spirits there, asking them for wealth and well-being and further life. The ribbons the white ribbons that you tie to the trees have a specific meaning, and you feed the spirits. And when the Serpentine Road in Chiquitaman, which is in the top 10 of the most beautiful roads of the world, is said to be very exciting for so many people. Its beauty is so obvious, its landscapes so striking. Everyone simultaneously we see that all tourists want to leave a trace. They want to write something on a rock. And of course, the signatures are very different, of different scale, different meaning. We've actually made quite a classification of them. We've subdivided them into groups. Over these years, we've cleaned up some very beautiful objects, historical sites, monuments of nature, such as the Red Gate, Belly Bomb, which is a rock, the legendary Chiquitaman Place, the Chuya Road, the Chemal Road, and the very entrance to the Republic. There are too many to mention. So what we do is we take a sanding machine and we go to the mountains to abrasively clean the paint off the mountains. We still have a million questions, whether we use any acids, whether we use any sand. which is why I'm explaining what we do in such detail. Of course, every photo and number of photo collections that we have on our social networks are pride and joy to us. You know, the before and after pictures. A big signal for our further development was the fact that locals, the eco volunteers of the Ongudai district and other places where vandalist graffiti are, had been painting the rocks gray at their own initiative. Nobody cares that Vasya was here in 2023. You know, these are our only places, our sanctums. It's disrespect to the culture of the Altai people.
То, что серой краской были закрашены все скайлдульчи.
So the fact that they used that gray paint on their own initiative was a sign to us to start doing something. We are currently a recognized federal ecological volunteer project. We won the international award We Are Together 2022. We participated in the pitching of the projects, and it gave us a second breath. I guess I personally needed to go through that pitching process to understand that, well, since I have my golden volunteer, Solina, here, who came with me to our very first cleaning in 2019 in June, and there were only 2 of us. And the sense of the beginning of the sentence is lost. Over this year, in our 2 7-day trips, we had 2 big 7-day trips. We completely cleaned up Chiquitaman. It was a dream of mine, and it came true. The whole road to Teletskaya Lake. So you've worked for 5 years. How many people have been engaged in the project over these years? Over 300 volunteers. I put there 200, not to give a precise number, but that's closer to 300. Were those Altai people only, or did they come from the neighboring regions? Yes, that's an interesting question, because initially it was very hard to find volunteers and engage them. It was hard to engage youth, because it's primarily youth. But they did come from different regions, including Novosibirsk. There were students, there were locals. And I'm happy that over the 5 years of the project, we've formed a core group of businessmen, guides, people who are just tourism enthusiasts, who come from different regions, among other things. But the key requirement is for them to be male, because it's a very exhausting work. Let me take this opportunity to say that it's very hard. It's really physically demanding. I mean, you have to carry your material up the mountains, the abrasive material. You have to install the machine. You have to keep it installed because it keeps falling down. And it's really heated at the mountain face, and you can just get the sunstroke. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying how hard this volunteer labor is. And people have been completely dedicated to this project. This is something that is interesting to see. So how have we been supported to achieve such results as one of the best ecological projects in the Federation? Over 300 participants, like I said, have so far been engaged in the process, have listened to what they needed to do from us. The first expedition was expertly reviewed by the Katun Biospheric Preserve. You know, we needed to get the approval of these experts. They need to tell us that we are not interrupting the habitat of birds or the moss or anything, and they had to green light it. I'm sorry, we are slightly out of time, though. Okay, I'm about to finish anyway. So the partners have been helping us regularly. A day's work is about 100,000 rubles because you need to buy the materials, you need to buy the transportation, etc. And there have been cases when I had 30,000 rubles in the morning. Let's go anyway, I said, because once you start doing something, you give an impetus. Once you bring the machines up the road, you start calling to all tourist bases saying, I need to get another 70,000. Who can help me? And if you are willing to start this impetus, it happens. So my main message in this session, I guess, is that it's really important to show this spontaneous impulse to the youth. I mean, you needn't read resolutions of ecological fora, read resolutions and sustainable development documents. You just need to love your place a lot and start doing something, just something. So we were lucky in that the information development of the project has been one of our fortes. Standing and laboring off at the mountains is the relatively easy thing in terms of intellectual effort. The hardest part is to cover it properly and to tell every guest of ALTAI to not vandalize the mountains, not to tear out the ancient plants that have lived here forever. Elena Letucheva, one of the opinion leaders and bloggers, visited us last year, and I always hold meetings for children, for youth, at universities, at fora. I try to be everywhere. I sometimes call everybody proactively to make sure that anti-vandal education be gotten across to children. I'm not just showing how cool we are for doing it. I'm trying to say that if you write on a school desk, you need to be able to reverse these consequences too. And of course, the gold, the currency of my project are the volunteers, my amazing team that, leaves everything behind, their jobs, their big families. I have a lot of volunteers with many children, but they go and get engaged in this process for a whole week. And when I ask them why you do this, why a particular person would leave everything behind and go somewhere for a week, they say, well, ALTAI nurtures me and I want to give back. That's my way of giving back. And when we clean these rocks, we clean ourselves. It's self-cleansing, mirror cleansing. And I can speak indefinitely. That's the QR code for donating to the project. Here's our Vkontakte page with the before and after pictures. And in conclusion, I would like to say that I'm just a businesswoman. I'm a small businesswoman and a typical citizen of our district. I have 2 little kids, a family, just like an ordinary person. But this initiative and this protest against the bad that's going on and this desire to show that we ALTAI people care about this tourism development is what matters. Youth, I would like to wish youth more activity. Don't look into agenda letters, just do specific things and then projects will occur. You will be involved in initiatives, you will be engaged in projects, you will be partnering. Thank you so much, but I really have to cut you short. Well, not even cut you short, but proceed with the next stage of our discussion. It was a great presentation. You are an example of leadership. Leading by example in this panel. And I asked about what triggered you and the values that moved you, because it's only through a personal example that you can really show how to make a difference. And like you said, you can speak forever, but knowledge must be translated into action. And every project must be with deliverables, especially in nature and ecology. You can talk about generational issues, but As long as you really work on cleaning something for a week, that's a whole different matter. At our institution, we have been having expert discussions about ecological matters that need to be taken outside educational institutions and simply translated into active initiatives, you know. And ALTAI is a good background for this. I think that even ancient people try to write on rocks. This is something perennial, but we need to channel it into different formats. And going back to ecological culture, the values and the points that you made, you know, don't touch the flowers, don't vandalize. This must be something like, you know, the creed of a young person in harmony with nature. So going back online, I would like to announce that we also have Olga Shkabarnya, head of the corporate social responsibility of the project office of Rosatom. I'm really happy to have met Olga this year. We met at during a foresight session on new competences in ecology. So over to you, Olga. And given the context, maybe you could address something that people have already mentioned about their doings in ALTAI and the support of entrepreneurship by Rosatom in the regions, because your corporation supports new formats of education. So in the context of green economy, I would be interested to learn about your projects. I think you have slides. Right, dear colleagues, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me in this discussion. Well, I have many ideas that I heard from the previous speakers that really appeal to me with the policies and an understanding that we have in Rosatom in terms of ecology and entrepreneurship development. Going back to what Alexandra said, we really believe that practical implementation is possible through creating opportunities for youth to self-initiate real projects so that they could get real deliverables and they could see their ideas supported by the corporate sector and by NGOs. Previously, you've seen a lot of projects generated at fora. And oftentimes, companies also pledge to support some initiatives. But in the flux of days, some ideas really do not find their fruition. And this is a situation when trust is lost. The trust of youth in businesses is lost in this respect. And now we think that even those ideas that seem underdeveloped currently, some ideas that are only being transformed into some business initiatives by local entrepreneurs, even if they are few, are important to implement because people who really want to make a difference in the environmental situation in their region must be assisted, must be brought to a certain deliverable stage. Secondly, Rashid already mentioned that too often we see that even quite large societal associations and movements talk about environmental entrepreneurship and ecological practices to the youth, stressing volunteering and very basic actions such as cleaning up, you know. And of course, it's quite obvious that the community of young scientists is clearly making a demand for more action, which is quite widely represented in the Rosatom agenda.
And the demand from our regional NGOs, despite the fact that they don't have enough experience, they have real demand for developing some technological solutions for some high-quality educational product, so that we can, and we would like to expand the set of environmental initiatives which are being implemented in our country. So the systemic solutions are required. 100%. Solutions are there. They need to be high-tech ones. And we need to create a new economic paradigm for this purpose, so that we need to adjust to our export and import operation and what kind of services our country is providing as cutting-edge technologies, which are the front and which are actually are the face of our country, because we at Rosatom are developing services and products which are environmentally friendly and which are environmentally profiled, so that we can attract foreign clients. And those products which are developed by our energy companies and whatever progress Rosatom is dealing with and working on can be a good example of this. I would like so that this initiative are not only going from major corporation, but also from middle-sized and small-sized businesses, because the real economy of regional constituencies is formed by medium-sized and small businesses. Why did we focus on this youth entrepreneurship agenda? Our basic approach was we need to build upon the necessity to address the tasks our business has. We need to think of the solutions which are available on the market to make use of it, but we thought that it's only a proper approach to address some of our needs using our normal long-term contractors. Then we started approaching universities, for instance, Moscow Physical Technical University. And then they started offering solutions which can improve our technological level and stability level of technology for our products. And sometimes these products didn't really articulate the increase in environmental performance of this product. But rather they have a different view of technical characteristics. They have a different view being a student, because they are trained physicists and or chemists, and they not always understand the depth of the impact of their proposed solution in terms of its environmental performance. And now we've been confronted with it. We are trying to engage these young students and to educate them on what is this environmental impact. So we consider this to be invaluable contribution to the development of environmentally friendly projects and socially humanitarian projects. So without this understanding, the necessity of the environmental component, it's not possible to do this. So we have a program as part of our corporate and social responsibility domain to develop our environment-friendly projects. We can offer some interesting customized solutions. So we set out 3 blocks which we take as a basis for our conversation for development of entrepreneurships. The first block is environmental entrepreneurships. This is a block to develop technology-based solutions for the utility sector, for housing sector, for the service industry, because this is where we all are, because we are using these utility services and other general services, and we are confronted with the notion of environmental impact, because there are not so many really major solutions in big cities in this sector, and I'm not even talking about small towns. The second block is more or less clear sector within the ESG paradigm is eco-entrepreneurship. So we need to preserve sustainable supply chains. So in this regard, we're holding conversation with our major suppliers so that they pass over to their subcontractors and they to their subcontractors the values we have and the environmental policy we're trying to promote. so that they start working on climate-related issues. This becomes our competitive advantage. We are offering to our subcontractors to become a long-term contractor of our major corporation. And eco-entrepreneurship as part of social, environmental activity. So we engage volunteers and key opinion leaders. We would like to transfer them from the concept where they once a week on Thursdays just go out as volunteers doing things. We would like to make this volunteer-tainted project into the packing of a business product. We need to make them more business-oriented. So in major cities, when we're talking and considering such cities as Moscow and St. Petersburg, of course, there is a different approach compared to those people working at Rosan sites in regional constituencies. We would like that people who are working within the walls of our enterprises, they could launch their interesting research and development, environmental friendly or environmentally oriented startup project outside of their office time or their workshops. We think that it's business, our company is a business which creates environmental service, a product which will be directly impacting the reduction of carbon footprint, but it should be environmentally efficient within the process itself. Olga, can you bring us some examples from the third block you mentioned? Entrepreneurship as a part of social ecology, because then please follow it up with 1, 2 thoughts, and then we need to stick to time limits. So the best cases from third block, the format were implemented in the town of Sibirsk, where some representatives from different schools unite to establish an association to implement a program on promotion of separate waste collection, and they presented it as a fully-fledged communication campaign, which consisted of an event-related part, which presented some specific and exact steps each person can take to increase the environmental awareness. For instance, events related to launching such waste collection management sites. Then we just decided to organize some small workshops where we started manufacturing souvenirs from waste material, and we engaged people who are doing it partly as a business project, and then part of it is being carried out on a volunteer basis. Of course, the revenues are not that great, but the very principle of switching from this volunteer project to making it more or less profitable or revenue generating, there's a good case. We are scaling as a good experience to other countries where our enterprises are located. Another case, in the city of Volgodonsk, our volunteers have completed some retraining courses, and they actually became environmentalists and ecology professionals, and they consult those entrepreneurs who are opening some small dry cleaning shops or laundries, etc. They're trying to consult them to educate on how they can reduce the human-made impact on the environment. They make them learn how they can reduce costs and being environmentally friendly simultaneously. And currently they are trying to commercialize this project. And in conclusion, there is another really exciting project we're about to launch next year. I'll be happy if someone on our panel or viewers would be willing to join us. Specifically, we would like to increase the competence level of those people who have just the concept of their project ready and would like to collect these ideas remotely, especially ideas of eco-startups. We would like to make them more or less sustainable, just make them functional, workable, and then we would like to find 2 or 3 such cases in every single mono-cities our company has operations in, and then we would like to make this packed and adjusted, environmentally oriented startups make really work in the reality, not just the level of an idea. We are forming right now a framework for this project. We are using specific accelerator of our own. We have a really good experience in terms of commercializing scientific developments, but we didn't have any success cases in terms of commercializing these environmental startups. So we are looking for these entrepreneurs who are trying to take deep dive into this green entrepreneurship agenda. So we are looking for such entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, and then we have some really big search for the competent tutors and mentors for them, so that we are actually going to get back to various organizations so that we can find people who can share with our young entrepreneurs their expertise. Thank you very much for your contribution on project proposals. From our view as agency for strategic initiatives, we are ready to come up with some experts to assist your fellows in these endeavors. And also, we would like to introduce some assistants presenting whatever skills and whatever resources we have. Me as a moderator and a person who is designing and really deeply involved into the environmental thinking concept as an idea to promote. For me, it's really pleasant. It's really pleasant to hear such project proposal, but we need to simultaneously stick to the timeline. The good news, we don't have that many people in our room, and me as a moderator can maneuver here back and forth, so that you have enough time, and so that we don't dwell into some long discussion. I would like to propose to move on with our conversation. I like to say that if there is anyone in the whole room who is a speaker and then who would like to discuss things in more details, can approach me or my colleague Zoya. So the Agency for Strategic Initiatives is serving for this purpose specifically. Jan Antonio Kudashkina, chairwoman of the Committee for the Sustainable Development of the movement Opora of Russia. So the formats of engaging young people into the environmental agenda and all possible entrepreneurship activities. We all heard about the strategic game Awakening. And since you represent this entrepreneurship community Opora of Russia, your work is focused on some engagement of young people too. Just could you elaborate on it? Thank you very much, dear colleagues and friends. I'm really happy and glad to make the presentation here, because ALTAI is a sacred place for me and it's in my heart. I hadn't been here for 3 years, but then yesterday I came back here, and I was really happy to do so. So, as regards to the potential of young people in our country and their future, I would like to stay within this framework and would like to stay within the walls of friendly conversation we are having here So we have some challenges in terms of cooperation between various stakeholders, foreign collaboration with the regional constituencies, and regional education, because most of my professional life I've been dealing with some public projects tasked with developing regions in Russia, NGOs, etc. But today I'd like to ask you ever wondered to have a look at the personnel potential of our country? Because don't you see some problems? Because there is some fluctuation in terms of our young professionals from our country too. Actually, this fluctuation is obvious, and it's a fact. Despite the political agenda we've been having, not for the first year, of course, all the background challenges we're facing, I like to stress that a person who's living in our Eurasian paradigm, our deep cultural code, must be one of the impetuses which is moving us forward. And I'd like to highlight the specific components of this deep cultural code we all cherish. When I approach my concepts, identifying what is thinking, what is ecology or environmentalism, I thought of making this transition from thinking. Thinking would be a starting point. Ecology is love for our homeland. Second, a person shouldn't be separating himself or herself from the region, from the country, from the world, from cultural specifics he was raised in. You need to understand that you're living in the country, that you love this country where you live and the place where you live, and then, only then, you'll be ready to do really many things. And we need, after having formed this understanding, we need to be able to do things which will define the space, environment we're living in. It's an important prerequisite. So we need to take over the minds of young people. I've been teaching for 2 years at the Kuzbak's branch of the Plekhanov University for 2 years. So we need to make people understand that they need to pick up some trash they dispose of through on the floor. They need to separate some types of waste, etc. We need to train people, young people, simple things. But the trend is here, it's going. And the formats we are mostly using are not working. For instance, as a lecture, I'm talking about something, you're talking about something we consume, something we understand, something we take to heart, so because it's something close to us. But once we meet young people, there is a different world. They have different paradigm of thinking. They would like to have more flexible, more active formats. Therefore, they would like to have more gaming-based models, because game is one of the ancient types of activities of a human. A baby plays with a mum, then plays with his reflection in the mirror, etc. This is a way for development for the babies, and we need to integrate this gamification process into the youth development agenda. This will yield really good benefits for businesses and for governmental bodies. 2 years ago, I created a game because it was the result of one of the reports I listened to at the Crimean Club. Play with yourself. That's the name of the game. This assumes there is some cooperation between two teams. They have role-play-based collaboration. They are going deep into some future where they're discussing it where things turn south. And then the second part of this is these two teams are considering what are the options, what things you would do better, what would you do differently at the level of your region, at the level of your country. Therefore, allowing these young people to take an active stance through problematizing the situation which is already existing, and then their engagement level is growing significantly. We have these gaming sessions in 6 regions of our country, specifically on the island of Sakhalin. We received an invitation from the Minister of Sustainable Development and Environmental Protection of Sakhalin to come there and to do this. And in that constellation, we've had a real good experience in terms of holding this game session over there. I'm traveling across many regions of our country. I'm meeting many colleagues. Best greetings to Rashid, who had his contributions today and before. Olga, also from Rosatom, thank you very much. I'm interested in the projects and the concepts you're currently advertising. We are happy to join your efforts. I have really deep belief into our cultural codes, our spirit, and in that only in joint efforts we can accomplish really much and accomplish the project which would tap the potential of our young people. Thank you very much for your presentation, and my eye just caught one of the attributes which was at the origin of design of your game, working with the meta timings. So I didn't see your game, but if I understood correctly, this is making young people understand the structure of their decision making and the consequences of these decisions for the future, and also problematizing, so that if I do so this way and right now, then in 20 years from now, I will live in a clean and environmentally friendly place. What are also other components of that case? In that role model, we didn't have a really exact description of the environmental situation, but we're ready to bring up this case for you as an example. So, to understand correctly, you can modify your game in accordance to the localities and local specifics of your region. Yes, it can be formulated in accordance with the requirements of the business needs or the regional needs, so that we can gamify these communication and cooperation of young people with authorities, and will be really fruitful. We're switching to online format. I hope that the advisor to the governor of the Kamchatka region will join us. Oh, Ekaterina, hello, we're glad to hear you. Our beloved Kamchatka. We've been waiting for you here in ALTAI, but you've joined us online. Okay, happy to see you. So we had some reference to the forum ecosystem and also a set of projects you implementing. You have many university students coming to your platform for the purpose of self-realization, and we're giving the floor to you to elaborate on your view on how to develop the youth engagement, not only in Kamchatka, but also your view on systemic approaches which are being developed on the national basis. Yulia, thank you very much. I really be happy to be there in ALTAI together with you, but unfortunately, situations are different, things are different. I'm happy to see so many familiar faces. I'd like to refer to what's been already said. Very diverse session we had here. I would like to move to Kamchatka realities and elaborate on what we're doing successfully, what we failed to do. So talking about water, because our young people, within the framework of the forum, the land of wildlife reserves, we separated a new format of actions young people can take, because this volunteer work has limited really engagement, and in order to be able to engage more people and involve them into the environmental activism, we need to do more. It's not just planting trees on a volunteer basis on Saturdays. We need to do, of course, more. Our young guys invented this program, inventory of waterways. So because it turned out to be that there are only 5% of waterways registered in our state registry, public registry. If we engaged some public persons to record some creeks, some small river branches which are not registered, so this could be a good continuation for the campaign Waters of Russia. I can't but tell you about Clean Rocks campaign, because I was doing it myself with my hands, because on the northern slope of a mountain we had to bring some hand machines, but it was 3,000 kilometers high, and even to that height we couldn't manage to bring these machines. We did it with our bare hands. And then we had an idea to make a video, documentary on Clean the Rocks, because the main idea of this movie, documentary, would be that there was an inscription, Vasily was here 2021, and then his spirit came back there and to clean the rocks, to make it really blank from inscriptions. So we wanted to turn it also into this rock slope into art cluster, and turn it into some festival of inscriptions, something. So we had different ideas. It's not quite an easy idea. And second thing I would like to mention, in ALTAI, we're observing an important story with the guides, persons who are working with the locals, and we opened the School of Nature Defenders. So we are actually inviting some guides from Altai region and other regions, so that they are trained on how to become not only the person who shows the way, but also make people understand the proper and careful approach to nature surrounding us. So you can just Google. You can just Google it. The search engine, the School of Nature's Defenders. And getting back to the topic of eco-entrepreneurship, we separate various domains or activities. Some of them relate to the kids, because during the school time, it's often possible to turn this enthusiasm into some active real steps, because they don't have this fear of failure, so that they understand it's not something of a gift, it's not something of a super risk, because this is a type of activity which available to everybody. So because there are some entrepreneurship clubs where young kids are doing some products, and sometimes they make their handmade souvenirs, which are sold in some souvenir shop in Kamchatka. So this is a sustainable model, and not just we're talking about things they did once during during the class, but they're doing it constantly on a permanent basis. So these souvenirs are sold, and then the revenues they bring back to the budget of the class. It's very hard to work with the teachers in school because the parents of school students, they are willing to do it. So because we are dealing with more or less with the culture they have. So because in Moscow region, probably it's not the case, but here in the Far East, we've been confronted with this challenge in terms of perception from the teacher side of a startup as an activity. Because I think it's a good challenge for us. The second aspect is about the youth. We had a club section of forum. I wouldn't say that generating entrepreneurship ideas is quite a simple thing for young people, because to just bring this project to life is a very complicated idea. You need to support this project before they can be launched. But the main obstacle to realization of this project is distribution of this startup products, because it seemed to us that there is not that much of demand for such environmentally friendly products from the eco startups. So we believe that we have really low demand from the consumer side for this, and therefore in the eco-entrepreneurships in Russia, it is important for the entrepreneur himself or herself to promote this distribution growth. So this entrepreneur himself or herself is trying to boost it, but actually it's seldom the case that the financial part of an eco-entrepreneur guy is actually not his or her best side. So because we need to turn the tide, we need to make people think that it's not only about volunteering, doing something. We need to show, specifically in Kamchatka, that you can also earn money doing this. We are trying to advertise, free of charge, of course, the products of our eco-entrepreneurs in Kamchatka. You might know the brand Just Care for Kamchatka. So we are promoting such brands which meet the green standards requirements, and we're trying to promote them within Kamchatka and outside of Kamchatka region. So we also have run an accelerator for green business, and it didn't run smooth though. So because we're dealing with some entrepreneurs from the hotel chains, and we're suggested them to move to the green standards, and food manufacturers were also there, and we trying to introduce some green standards. And they had the slide film that it would incur some additional costs or price increases to the product, and which would result in less sales. And we would considering and reviewing options for doing some special lineup of the product. But we're trying to convince entrepreneurs in Kamchatka to try to slightly invest into it. And we subsidize such efforts to the tune of up to 1.5 million rubles for this new green lineup. So this is our approach to trying to work with businesses, promoting green businesses or green services they're providing or products they're offering. So if this would be replicated across the whole country, it would be a great idea. And the initiative which were born at the forum is subsidizing and supporting entrepreneurs who are producing manufacturing products from environmentally friendly raw materials. They should be eligible to support and some subsidies so that they can move the environmental entrepreneurship forward. These are the models we are testing. And there are practices of green entrepreneurship in other regions, and we'll be happy to take them over to our Kamchatka reality, and we are ready to share these practices and to engage the locals living at the border of the reserve sites and wildlife park sites, so that they can produce and sell environmentally friendly manufactured souvenirs. And these souvenirs could be sold at the wildlife reserves by indigenous people. And this would be a thing of interest to us, because often it's the case, people who are living close to the wildlife reserves, they're highly, really motivated, particularly financially, to carry on with the eco-entrepreneurship. And we, in collaboration with the Agency for Strategic Initiatives, will be promoting these directions to work forward with. So we have some mentors and tutors sent from the Agency for the Strategic Initiatives. It was Ismail Rashid who had his contribution today, and he had some good proposals. And I believe those joint initiatives would find their realization as part of the youth policies implemented. And I believe that there were so many people during today's session having their contributions, and they are really interested. I would come here one day to ALTAI, but for now, I'm inviting you to visit Kamchatka. Thank you very much for your contribution, for invitation. Best regards from our side. And just to add something, Kamchatka is the center for forming some best practices.
Several years ago, the Agency for Strategic Initiatives opened the first boiling point in the country, and now we have over 160 of them. It's an agenda forum. It was the first school boiling point, and we opened it in an ordinary school in Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. So they selected the agenda to discuss together with their teachers, the governor, and the parents as ecology. And that's an example of taking it up from school. And the second project done in Kamchatka right now is the Center for Additional Education of Children with the Serious model, which is called Sunrise. The Agency for Strategic Initiatives also supports this project, and I'm part of the board. And this is a place where all environmental practices for schools will be developed. And I think the collaboration between the regions such as Kamchatka, Altai, the Baikal region, and others that set the environmental agenda as their strategic one is very important now. So I'd like to thank Katya and say hi to Kamchatka. And now we go back to this room for two more presentations with wonderful speakers. And it's my pleasure to give the floor to Elena Gorokhova, a long-term partner of the agency. Eco-Movement is her organization. In fact, I had some scenario, 6 steps of engagement in entrepreneurial activities. Hopefully, Elena will cover the 6 steps. And given that you are also a leader of the ecological agenda and ecological thinking, could you share the successful approved practices that could be of interest to our colleagues for partnership? May I have the start of my presentation, please? Let me introduce myself. I'm head of the Eco-Movement. I'll not be talking about this movement because we have a presentation stand in the corridor, and I'd like to thank the agency, first of all, for inviting us to this forum. Secondly, for giving a whole presentation stand to cover our initiatives and achievements. And let me tell you a bit about myself. For a while, for about 20 years, I worked in youth policies, and that doesn't even count my studying years because I've been in it since the 4th grade of school. And I had a thesis on the economy of labor and this respect on engaging youth in any activities. That's actually my background. That's my professional competence. Engagement in all things, including entrepreneurship and environmental entrepreneurship. And our focus, our entrepreneurship in the environmental area, I've been in it through 13 years. So bottom-up initiatives that are supposed to be self-propelled are our focus. So we can call ourselves social entrepreneurs, among other things. So how do we come to this, and how do we engage others in it? Let me tell you about our services. Katya just asked if she could see what the others are doing. For several years, we have been collecting various practices of ecological entrepreneurship on our website, the Cabbage Map. You can go to the stand to see where it is. It comprises about 10,000 points, which means about 10,000 entrepreneurs in Russia are engaged in environmental projects. You can look at the topics of their work and see what is still missing, because any entrepreneurship is formed out of some pain. First you understand that there's a problem, there's a shortage, there's a pain. Then you find a solution, and the next stage is when you learn to monetize the solution. It's important if your decision, if your solution also has social value, and it also gives a lot of benefits to the people and the territory, then you solve all the problems with the SDGs at once. And the project is sustainable when it has an impact. In some countries, we've already heard them say that if a business is not responsible, including environmentally responsible, it cannot even be in the market. We cannot even afford a business like this. And I really dream for our country to come to the same thing, for every business to be environmentally responsible, and not to have a separate eco-entrepreneurship agenda, but rather have it mainstreamed for any entrepreneur. No matter whether you do 100% ecological products or something else, you need to make sure that you don't damage the environment and rather make it even more livable. So I thought in depth about the questions that you posed to us in this panel. So what is really happening? How does a person enter entrepreneurship? Because when we were creating a service that I could recommend for anybody who would want to do Eco Agenda, ecowiki.ru, in top 10 best ecological projects according to the research of last year, I asked myself how to do environmental agenda, how to do environmental agenda with adults. With the youth, I mean, you can work with schools and universities, but young adults are until 2035. I mean, and then there are also older adults. And we realized that in principle, we needed to subdivide them by engagement levels, and by separating them into these classes, we engage them into entrepreneurship, among other things. And the first thing is you are introduced into the topic. You don't want to do anything, but you learn about something from a forum, maybe. We have a lot of fora because we have to deliver the knowledge to the maximum audience, well, the community. Yeah, well, the community is the next stage, but at least people need to be asking questions, seeing social advertisements, There has to be a general agenda that reaches me somehow. So you've been engaged in this for 10 years, and I can ask you how you came to it. There must be some storytelling, some interesting cases of people who achieved something, and how likely we have a lot of such projects and people willing to share. And over the past 2 or 3 years, there have been a lot of bloggers covering the environmental topic endlessly, which is very welcome because it promotes this topic. The second stage is education. Because when you enter environmental agenda, you see that, like probably many topics, you have to really get insights. I mean, there may be some topics where you don't need to understand anything, but it's not the case here. There are many aspects to nature friendliness, you know, whether it's nature friendly to pick up paper litter, or is it just ethical? There are many aspects to natural protection, you know. The general rhetoric of the country is so far human-centric. We think first of what is good for us, but when we go to environmental projects, we need to think nature-centrically, you know, to make things good for us without damaging nature, and rather improving the state of nature. So we need to strike this balance somehow. And this educational stage must help a person get insights into the topic. For instance, when young people want to do entrepreneurship, first thing they think of waste management. But how do you go into it if you don't understand anything? Just setting up waste containers is not the solution. There are many things to it. So apart from attending webinars or educational courses or training, and it's good if you study somewhere in depth, you also have to do research. This is the next stage that we came up with just recently. You need to really look into the topic in depth. And then there's the community that you mentioned. You need to join the community, but first you have to have changed your own habits, looked into your own ways of living, and identified your contribution as an individual. And that's stage 3, and then you have an active position from there. As soon as you realize what you can do yourself, and like many of us, you start thinking of what I can do next. There, the first projects appear. But if you haven't come up with your own, you can join the existing ones. People are cleaning the rocks, for instance. I can go with them. That's cool. I can really feel the spirit. I can be moved by volunteering, by getting engaged. That's the next stage where I'm not alone anymore. At least there are some people who are like-minded, and I can feel I belong with them. After which, entrepreneurial history starts being formed, because like I see a point of pain, I found like-minded people, and I can start thinking around it of how to create a sustainable project that could give us resources for solving a social problem. But at the same time, I would like for it to be my profession. And then you monetize the practice, but it's impossible to monetize everything in the environmental agenda. But if you find a way, it can help us financially carry out the non-monetizable part. We have such aspects such as activism, where we help a lot to various initiatives and various groups that defend their territories. It's non-monetizable, and either we find other sources or we apply for grants. And the ecosystem stage happens when you are already sustainable enough to collaborate with other projects, because I think that this is especially important in the environmental agenda. It's important not to be by yourself and not to compete, not to be enemies with the rest. In environment, you are all united. The planet is one, nature is one. We're all friends and partners. And if somebody says that there are too many projects, I'm saying no, there aren't enough, not nearly enough. Maybe 2.5% of the population are proactive people across humanity. So it takes 2.5% of the everything that moves, but we don't even have a percent of environmentally oriented projects among the projects in general. There are many social projects. Of course, entrepreneurship has to be socially oriented, but environmentally oriented is very rare. And we need to support each other. We need to find each other, and we need to build each other up, thereby creating an ecosystem of environmental projects and a supporting network. And like in any entrepreneurship, if you've been through an accelerator or another supporting project that exists in Russia, just like in other countries, and exists not only in Moscow but across the country, coaching is probably the most powerful lever here, because no financial resources or even tax benefits can do as much, because we're always told get a status of social entrepreneur, even though environmental projects are not on this eligible list. And I tell them we're okay without the status. But as long as we have a coach, and it helps a lot. At the first stage, it's especially important to find a person from real business who has been through all the stages. Elena, I'm sorry, can I add something? I just had a thought that in our country we have entrepreneurial clubs, you know, various scale of business clubs. Do we have an environmental entrepreneurs club? I'm asking because part of these clubs that are already created do participate as coaches for the youth entrepreneur sector, accompanying them on the way and giving them cases. Do we have similar one in environmental entrepreneurship? There are professional associations such as recyclers associations, eco-builder associations that focus on this really. There are plastic recyclers, paper and pulp recyclers, and tourism associations, but we don't really have an eco-entrepreneurship association. And I also forgot to mention something. If a person, well, not a person, a business, is really 100% green as it gets, it's really hard for it, especially in a crisis situation. On this map, we keep updating it. We keep learning if they are still alive. So we've seen that throughout the pandemic, and especially in the recent period, I think we lost 20% of environmentally friendly businesses. They are vulnerable to crisis situations because their social contribution is indeed much more than what they want to make in money. Sometimes they don't even have the time to gather their target audience in some kind of a support group. So there are different stages of maturity. So I suggest that we stick with the timing. And I'm coming to an end, actually. Well, I mean, in principle, we can go to the sidelines and talk in the corridor, but I'll tell you privately where we can go. I'm just trying to say that the readiness of entrepreneurs to pass down their knowledge. I mean, we've talked about mentorship a lot, and the only moving force there is just to pass down the knowledge. Maybe I won't get the revenue, but somebody else will. And there is a lot of demand among entrepreneurs to just pass down the knowledge. And I asked about clubs because if there are associations in place, maybe you can work with them to engage them in volunteering mentorship for the youth. You know, we have an alliance, actually. Most importantly, right, there is the alliance. They're not of environmental companies, but environmentally friendly companies. And it's an interesting approach. This communication is really important because in pure entrepreneurship, you have something like this. And that's an idea that you gave us. The last two thoughts that I would like to voice. One more idea. So the collaboration here is related to target audiences. Co-governance is not just about making environment livable. One of the niches that are most popular in environmental entrepreneurship is either urban planning, such as making cafes, little shops, infrastructural elements, or environmental education. Okay, what's happening to my clicker? And we must understand that engagement and co-ownership of your target audience in your projects is one of the environmental principles and makes a project sustainable as soon as your target audience really owns a project and works for its benefit. There are also some existing programs. Any entrepreneur, including an environmental one, goes through this. Career advisory programs that identify business capabilities of everyone. You can identify whole companies for this, so you can identify demand for environmental projects anywhere, and then you form hackathons. Luckily, we already have those, but they mostly exist in the technological sector, although they can be formed in any sector. And there are accelerators, which are numerous, but there are too few people going there who work in the environmental agenda. I know people who work there, and they just have to handpick these people to the environmental events. Well, I've already mentioned the priorities, even though there are 11 SDGs that concern environmental entrepreneurship and environmental matters overall. I highlighted the two here because, at least in our country, they are most relevant, or at least they seem so. And that is it from me. We want to see you at our stand in the corridor. We will be happy to continue talking to you about the services we have. And with EcoWiki, you have come to the stage of setting up an incubator for environmental entrepreneurs. First of all, there will be a course on packaging your project, because it's one of the most important challenges for any entrepreneur, to try and express yourself in a way that is understandable to the others. And then we teach them how to promote the project further, because it makes the project sustainable. It will be another challenge for ecowiki.ru. Staff. There will be accelerators, incubators, help with the search for funding. And my colleagues have already shared that we have crowdfunding for forestry projects. And now we just launched a project called Call of Nature, aiming at various on-the-ground projects, and these guys fit this just perfectly. I've already invited them for crowdfunding so that we could support these beautiful projects. Thank you so much, Lena. I think the presentations have been very motivational, and this is the kind of methodology that we can unpack and put into action. You've mentioned the spectrum and the toolkit that is available for entrepreneurs, but as to how many projects are really related to ecology, how much youth is involved, these are new things. And Alexandra Vaina presentation is interrelated with this, and there's serious food for thought for everyone engaged in the agenda. We need to think about whether all these components are enough, given the numbers of entrepreneurial projects that have shut down, as you have mentioned. This, I think, has not even been a panel discussion, but a very meaningful and deep heart-to-heart conversation of like-minded people with shared values. These are amazing projects and practices, and we wrap up today's session with the last presentation from a representative of the Republic of Altai, Maria Artematova, head of the regional section of the youth community in the Republic of Altai and member of the Civic Chamber of Women on Altai. If you have any thoughts, because we've been conversing on the agenda, I have to ask you how you came to it, what your activity has been, and I cannot fail to mention we've already discussed mentorship today, and we've asked very many people, as a mentor, what are you moved by? We just wanted to hear what they would say in verbs, you know. And the whole country answered that mentorship is all about love. That's the verb, to love. And since we've been discussing this agenda, the value content would be interesting for us to hear as well. And in general, everything to do with projects. How does the rural youth of Altai participate in projects overall, and through the lens of ecology that we've been discussing in particular? Thank you. I will agree to the thought that it's all about love. The verb is love, because I love my native village of Chemal. I love Altai, the Republic of Altai. And that's precisely why I'm engaged in this activity, because I love it. And I'm lucky that it's socially responsible activity is also my hobby, and it doesn't really take me away from my daily life. I have many children too, and I care about what republic I will leave to my children. This is key. My name is Maria Artematova, and as they already said, I'm head of regional unit of the Russian Union of Rural Youth. I hail from the family of Tetisari. We are few and mainly based in the Chemal region. As a social entrepreneur, I started working in 2012, and I had a mentor, head of the region, Alexander Shalisov, who told me that there is the Russian Union of Rural Youth, and since our Republic of Altai is a rural agrarian region, we have 10 municipalities, including one city, which are all in rural areas. Our youth mostly does live in rural areas, and the Russian Union of Rural Youth is the only organization in our country that protects the interests of such youth. Given the specific features of the fourth industrial revolution, we can say that children born in the 90s or late 80s are on the edge of the current realities and the post-COVID space. And time has shown that it's important to preserve the environment, and it's shown how we need to look into the future. So my contemporaries are entrepreneurs who have been always minding the eco factor in their businesses. They want to preserve the environment they live in. Of course, it's all relevant, and for our regional segment, we aim to engage over 50% of all the rural youth in the Republic of Altai in our activities. And by reaching all of our goals in engaging youth, creating the infrastructure for the engagement, and we are helped in it by the project Talent for Rural Areas. It was formed by an instruction of the President of the Russian Federation. So by developing rural youth, we develop rural areas overall, and thereby we developed the country overall. We needed to create attraction points in the rural areas. On April 6th, we started implementing this, and on the 20th of April, we opened the first attraction point in the country in the Agro Park Amza. I can tell you that as we implemented the rest of our projects, the youth entrepreneurs of Altai were taught in Skolkovo and met the leading entrepreneurs of this country. and received some answers to the questions on how to structure their activities today in the context of eco-entrepreneurship and the projects implemented by the country, including workshop of rural territory development. And the following week, in the Golden Week initiative, these guys will present their projects to receive support of investors. Another project we are participating in is Rural Leaders, which prepares talent, future talent and managers for villages, including ALTAI villages. And I cannot fail to mention some of the positive projects implemented in ALTAI in particular, such as approval of the architectural code of the village of Chemal. Yana Anatolieva already mentioned environmentally aware thinking, and the business community of the Chemal region is all about environmental thinking. They always are mindful of what our village will be like, or ALTAI will be like rurally overall, and how we can just remove the distractions and very chaotic advertisement materials that are there. The region is also now receiving gas infrastructure, and we need to make sure that the pipe work is not too distractive, from the general image of the rural areas, because, it's our special feature. So starting from Chemal, our team decided that the design code creates a unique identity of a village, and we presented this to the municipality of Chemal in writing. It wasn't accepted at once. We made particular proposals on bus stop design, and they were implemented, and the citizens of Chemal and ALTAI liked them so much that we succeeded. Currently, the team of our business community and our project proposes to remove some anthropogenic burden from the center of the Chemal village and reroute traffic to make it unilateral in the center. Can I ask a question? Were these projects done with participation of youth? So that's precisely what we've been discussing, actually. Their thoughts were implemented in real life.
This is a real project which we can present. The project prepared on our land, because the team members are under 35. These are representatives from the business community, the local one, and considering the statements that were voiced here, we presented them, just packed them, made them ready to be reviewed, and the municipal body, municipal authorities, they reacted to this and they approved. So this is the only one project in our country which has been approved in terms of its architectural code. So this is my proud achievement. These are these unique bus stop pavilions. If you see them, then you know where they came from the village Chemal. Currently, we are actively working on quality of life improvement through introducing one-way driveways, and I believe that we won't stop at this point. We'll go a couple of steps further, and in ALTAI we have different areas for entrepreneurship, deer farming, cattle farming, etc. We started developing industrial tourism, youth entrepreneurships, and we started showing the best cases of entrepreneurships in our republic. The first delegation we received was from Tatarstan. They visited our just leading enterprises, and then they learned something from our experiences. This is it so far, and I would like to add that in July this year, taking part in the International Russian Forum, I was honored to be member of the Russian delegation. We were discussing development opportunities and potential of our union states. We were touching upon topics of the youth, environmentalism, oceans, etc. And we decided and touched upon the topic of holding a congress, an international one, in the Republic of Altai, with the involvement and participation of young entrepreneurs. I believe ALTAI is an ideal platform to discuss challenges and propose solutions to the challenges. Maria, thank you very much for your statement, and it's just an interesting case. And we are talking about the real support your project is receiving. Dear colleagues, we've concluded our conversation, discussion. Thanks to everybody who's been all the time with us. If there are any questions, I would like to remind you that today we were discussing topics of youth entrepreneurships, youth engagement into these activities. The session has been organized by the Foundation Ross Congress, the Republic of Altai, the agency of the strategic initiatives. My name is Yulia Hanjina. I'm Deputy Director of the team young professionals within the Agency for Strategic Initiatives. This is the initiative we've been implementing for several years, and this session has united all the partners which were actually working towards topics of biocyclic innovations, social news, culture, and youth entrepreneurships. And we'll keep developing this agenda. We are open to mediation on this topic, and we're ready to provide any support you'd like to. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the Republic of Altai bringing such people talking about the senses and values together. Thank you very much.